Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Nathan MacKinnon has established himself as an NHL superstar since he joined the league in 2013. The former first overall draft pick is currently third in the league in points with 66 points in 44 games and is the centerman on Colorado's high-scoring first forward line where he is flanked by line mates Gabriel Landeskog and Mikko Rantanen. The three players on this line have been explosive since the start of the season, and this has resulted in each of them ranking in the top 15 players in points scored in the league so far this season. However, rather than causing trouble for opposing teams on the ice, the 23-year-old MacKinnon has gotten himself involved in some drama with his own team due to his behaviour on the team bench a few nights ago. For those of you who don't know what happened, during the game between the Calgary Flames and the Colorado Avalanche on Wednesday night, Calgary scored an empty net goal with 10 seconds left in the game to take a 2-goal lead at 5-3. Even though MacKinnon's line had scored to cut the lead to 1 goal the shift prior with 38 seconds left in the game, Colorado's top line were unable to capitalise once more before the empty netter was scored, despite that line scoring 2 of the 3 Avalanche goals in the game. This 5th goal being allowed caused the clearly frustrated MacKinnon to verbally engage with Colorado Avalanche head coach Jared Bednar, throw a water bottle on the floor in anger after Bednar responded, and fall off the bench after Avs captain Gabriel Landeskog tried to calm him down, which was pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. The video of the aforementioned incident is playing on screen now, and you can clearly tell that MacKinnon isn't happy with his coach. Though you can't hear what he says, it's obvious that MacKinnon is not having a pleasant conversation about the game. He looks pretty hostile when talking to Bednar, and by the looks of it, is using several choice words to express how he feels about his coach's decisions in this game. From watching this video many times at either full speed or half speed, and paying close attention to reading his lips, I think I might have made out most of what MacKinnon says. I believe MacKinnon can be seen saying to Jared Bednar such phrases as, "You're fucking pulling him, man, with 35 fucking seconds," as well as, "We could have fucking won it," and "I think I'm doing my fucking job, Bedsy." On the other side of the conversation, Jared Bednar does seem to say something to MacKinnon in response, but it is quite obvious that he is a lot calmer than his alternate captain is on the bench, and he has a lot less to say in that moment. The most animation Bednar shows during the video is when MacKinnon falls off the bench, and he seems to have a little chuckle to himself. I don't really blame him, to be honest. You can't really take a guy seriously if he falls off the bench during a hockey game. Now, as you can imagine, this sudden outburst has divided the opinions of hockey fans everywhere, as to whether MacKinnon letting his coach know how he felt in that moment was necessary, or whether it was a clear sign of disrespect towards his head coach. Those that think what MacKinnon said was necessary mention that this reaction is just a response from a top player whose team is going through a real slump. The Avalanche have really struggled to win games recently, so allowing this empty net goal and seeing the game slip through their fingers could have been the final straw that broke MacKinnon's back. Let's not forget that Colorado have now lost 6 of their last 9 games in regulation time with a 1-6-2 record in that span. The team were once sitting pretty in a top 3 divisional playoff spot, but have now dropped to a wildcard spot and are holding on to that by the skin of their teeth. If this slump continues, Colorado could well miss the playoffs, which would be a huge step back compared to their season the year before, where they had one of the best single-season turnarounds in NHL history. MacKinnon and his line mates are holding up their end of the bargain and are really earning their multi-million-dollar paychecks by continuing to score night in, night out, and are doing everything they can to help their team sit in a playoff spot. But the team just can't seem to win games. Also, whilst MacKinnon and his line mates are putting up points and keeping their team competitive in most of their games, the rest of the team isn't following suit. Though the other forwards on the roster are getting good scoring chances, the first line is the only line that seems to be consistently contributing on the scoresheet. The team's defense has been lackluster as of late, their penalty kill is abysmal, sitting in the bottom 5 in the league, and their goaltending has taken a nosedive in quality and consistency over these last few weeks, which is arguably the primary reason for this mid-season slump. So I can see why MacKinnon would be upset. His teammates aren't stepping up and playing like they can and should be. If they were, perhaps the Avs wouldn't be on a 1-6-2 run at the moment and would be sitting pretty at the top of their conference. Everyone has to pull their weight in order to have success. You can't just rely on one forward line to solve all your problems, and MacKinnon knows that, hence why he is so frustrated. In addition, MacKinnon taking shots at Jared Bednar shows that he feels his coaching staff aren't making the necessary changes to give their team the best chance to win. The bottom 9 forwards on this roster could really do with a shake-up to try and get some more depth scoring from them, since they clearly aren't scoring enough at the moment, and the team has allowed 5 or more goals in 3 of the past 4 games. Whatever Jared Bednar's strategy is for this team, it clearly isn't working right now. You might argue that perhaps the players aren't doing what they're supposed to in Bednar's system, and if they did, then they would see a lot more wins. But with so many players underperforming these last few weeks, something has got to be wrong with the game plan here. You can't pin all of this on the players. The coach's strategy clearly isn't optimised for the players that he has in the locker room. However, on the flip side, those that think what MacKinnon did was disrespectful to his coach argue that a player should know that this was the wrong time and the wrong place to air your dirty laundry with the coaching staff. No matter how frustrated a player is with his coach, he should never criticise him so openly and so publicly for how he does his job, least of all during a game. MacKinnon's job is to play hockey. He is paid a huge amount of money every season, certainly a lot more than Jared Bednar is making, to play hockey. It is not his job, nor his responsibility, to tell his coach how to do his job. He can, of course, disagree with a coach's decision, as I'm sure many players have over past NHL seasons, but to tell him to do his job as if he wasn't already doing so, and making it seem like he could do it any better, is completely uncalled for. Seeing a player calling out his coach on the bench is unprecedented. You almost, if not never, see anything like this happen ever in the National Hockey League, and I don't think it should start now. If Nathan MacKinnon was really that frustrated with how Jared Bednar was doing things, he should have talked to him about it after the game in the locker room or in the coach's office behind closed doors. It's not as if he would have had to wait very long. The game only had 10 seconds left before the final buzzer. Just wait a few more minutes and then you can vent your frustration to him, where the hockey media will be unable to hear it and post it all over social media in a matter of moments. Or, if you don't feel like you want or need to talk to him about it, once you get to the locker room and your temper has died down, then it was clearly something you wanted to say in the heat of the moment, either to make yourself feel better or make Bednar feel bad, and you might not have actually meant it anyway. So, it's better that you didn't say it there and then on the bench. Sometimes patience is a virtue, after all. For a team that's been struggling in the standings recently, seeing something like this happen, where frustrations are clearly boiling over, isn't really that surprising though. The team is obviously going through a slump, and there's no doubt that this slump is frustrating everyone on the team, as they all know they can play better than the scoresheet has shown over the past few weeks. To be honest, MacKinnon has probably been feeling like this for a while, and I can imagine several other players in that locker room feel exactly how MacKinnon feels. This incident shows that there are some things that the coach is doing which the player disagrees with, but the player hasn't made the decision or had the nerves to tell him privately, which is really what he should have done in this scenario. However, none of this justifies MacKinnon's behaviour that night. Waiting until you get this mad about what he is doing and exploding on the bench for all to see like this isn't the best way to solve the problem. Also, as an alternate captain of the team, you're setting a really bad example to the rest of your teammates by arguing so openly with your head coach on the bench. Now that MacKinnon has done it, who's to say that Rantanen, Landeskog, or anyone else on the Avs roster won't do this when they get frustrated with how Jared Bednar is coaching? Sure, whilst the chance of this happening again is highly unlikely, as most hockey players aren't the sort for theatrics like this on the bench during games, and some people could argue that MacKinnon will be able to get away with what he did as he is one of the team's star players, it sets a bad precedent of players feeling like they can undermine their head coach in front of the rest of the team. That doesn't seem very mature or very professional. That said, it's Bednar's job to make sure something like this from the players doesn't happen again, and he has to make it very clear to his players that he is the one who runs the bench, he is the coach of the team, and what he says is final. If you don't like it, enjoy the press box for a game or two, and get used to being a healthy scratch. Now, in terms of where I stand in this whole situation, I can see where Nathan MacKinnon is coming from to an extent. He is doing everything he possibly can to help the team win hockey games and is going well over a point per game in order to do it. But the rest of the team is either not following suit or regressing compared to their production earlier in the season. After all, hockey is a team sport, and each player needs to play their part if the team is to be successful. The fact that MacKinnon and his line mates are, but not many other players are, must be really frustrating, especially if your coach isn't giving the underperforming players a kick up the arse and telling them to fight harder and play better. However, I think it's clear that Nathan MacKinnon handled this whole thing the wrong way. You simply cannot address your head coach in that kind of manner during a game. If MacKinnon was frustrated with his coach, he was well within his right to address it or discuss it with him at some point following the game, either in the locker room or in the coach's office when the team returned to Colorado, but not before the final buzzer had sounded. All that does is bring attention and create drama when none is needed, and makes fans wonder if everything is still okay in that locker room. Doing this in public, in front of cameras for the hockey world to see, makes it appear as if the team is more worried about fighting each other than they are their opponents. Of course, Nathan MacKinnon is still only 23 years old. He is young, and he will make mistakes. But this isn't his first rodeo. He's been in the league for half a decade at this point. He's never done anything like this before, and he knew it wasn't the right thing to do then. But in the heat of the moment, he got carried away and took things too far. We're all human. It happens to all of us at some point. Just most of the time, it's not in front of thousands of fans at the arena and thousands more watching from home. So, in conclusion, if there is anything to be learnt from this scenario, it is this. No matter how frustrated you are with your coach, don't start trying to engage in a verbal altercation with them during a game. Whilst it may make you feel better in the short term and get everything you wanted to say off your chest, all it will do is bring drama and controversy to your team's front door. And nobody likes unnecessary drama, right? Oh, and let us take a moment of silence for the water bottle that was brutally thrown to the floor during this horrible ordeal. Rest in peace, dear water bottle. You fought for us all. Thank you. And with that, I am going to end today's video. What do you think about MacKinnon calling out Jared Bednar? Do you think it was the right thing to do, or do you think it was disrespectful? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. A big thank you to Chris Gadsby, Max Artis, and Nat Marlowe for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.